Welcome back to That Sounds Gay. I'm in. I'm Sai.
I'm Matt.
So this week it's really cold outside, so I'm stuggy. This is week 2 of our queer media conversation. And now, like I said, everything that we've talked about so far in the last episode was pretty. I don't even feel right saying it was touching the surface. We are just trying to do like half hour to 45-minute long episodes, and we could talk about the concept of just movies for days, weeks.
Month.
But today we're going to be doing episode 2 of 3, and we're going to be talking about print and influencers. So news, books, everything to that kind of effect, and social media and how things have responded since and how activism has changed because of it.
So definitely come and hang out with us. And again, this is just going to be, like you said, scratching the surface. We could go into weeks and months of this because there's so broad of a topic. But we just want to just get into just touching the surface and just tickling your interest.
So let's go ahead and get started on this. Okay, so welcome to Let That Sounds Gay. I'm in. So we're going to be talking about print for a few minutes and talking about the different kinds of media that has been released in, well, print form. You had told me about now. It's something similar to a baby. I know it has something to do with the baby.
Okay, so Henry Gerber.
Gerber.
Yes, Henry Gerber. So this is my favorite story of history, of U.S. history, because it's 100 years ago. It's 1924. So Henry Gerber was he was from Germany, and he came to the U.S. and then he went back to Germany uh, as in the U.S. military, and he found a German magazine called Friendship and Freedom. And it was a gay magazine. And he thought, how cool is that in Germany? So when he came back and to the US, he started a gay publication. And before he did that, he decided to make a nonprofit. And so he filed his 501c3 paperwork, and he filed it, and he was accepted and for the Gerber House. And so he was the first gay nonprofit, but he didn't say it was for being gay.
Just say 100 years ago, that's kind of surprising they allowed that to even be a thing.
Yeah, because he didn't say what it was for. I mean, he didn't specify what he was doing with it. And so then he started sending out this publication, and he didn't get a lot of people that wanted to get the publication because it was it was a magazine. It was print like this. And so it was a very open gay publication, and people were worried that they would get it and they would be arrested. And they were right. There were like 7 people that were getting the magazine, and they all got arrested, including Henry Gerber, and they got shut down almost immediately. There's no copies of this magazine, this publication saved anywhere. They were all destroyed from 100 years ago. But it was the first gay nonprofit publication, and he was successful for doing that in 1924, 100 years ago. So, I mean, that's, and so it was a little bit more than 30 years after that before we had another one.
Which would be the Daughters of Bilitis.
Bilitis, yes. Yeah, DOB, the Daughters of Bilitis, which was a lesbian organization. And they were around for a long time. And I believe there are subsections of Daughters of Bilitis around today. And so they're still not the original group, but there's subsections that believe, that or not believe, but they say that they are, Daughters of Bilitis still. But the original Daughters of Bilitis were from the mid 1950s to 1970s, and they had a publication called The Ladder, and it was very popular, and they were very successful in the lesbian movement.
Not when you can still find copies of. They didn't
Yes.
erase all of those ones. I don't
Yeah,
know if it's still in production though. I feel like that one stopped.
no, it stopped in the mid 70s or early 70s, I believe.
So I mean, you can't find new editions, but
No, but you can find the historic editions. Those are kept by, you know, gay historians, gay collectors, museums. They have this. I would, as a gay collector, I am a collector of gay items. I would love to have a copy. If you want to know what to get me for my birthday sign, that's what you need to get me. You know how much those copies would cost, I'm sure. But that's what I want for my birthday. There you go. Is a daughter or a daughter abilitas publication of the letter. You're googling how much it cost, right?
uh-huh.
Yeah,
I am actually.
yeah, yeah. But the daughter. So while you googled out, I'll tell you about the daughter abilitas. They actually had like places. They would have like tea parties and but not quite tea parties. But like get-togethers and card parties and things like that, where you can get together in social gatherings. You can get together at people's houses and stuff. And so it was still fear of police raids and stuff. If they knew what was going on, you can get raided and things. But that magazines, really came out until like the late '60s. The Come Out magazine came out, and that was the next big magazine was the Come Out magazine, and I think that one's still easily gotten a hold of is the Come Out magazine, which was the big voice with the LGBTQ plus voices.
So I just really quickly want to address something. $77
See, you can get that
for
for me
just volume 3.
for just volume 3. Yeah, I mean,
Volumes 1 and 2 are currently not. I can't find. Like
right.
they're there. They just all say currently unavailable. This was the earliest copy I could find, and this was from October 1958. It is 77. Honestly, as a comic book collector, that's a lot cheaper than I expected it to be.
Yeah, that's a lot cheaper than I expected it to be. And so, I mean, if you want to get Matt something really special, that's what he wants is gay collectibles, and that's on his dream list. So add to my collectibles. So they, one of those original magazines, they are out there, but they are, you know, really in the hands of collectors only. And passed between collectors. They're well kept, and so people realize the value of them and the value that they had in our culture. These were how we communicated with each other and how we told each other what was going on. I mean, these were dangerous times, and these were hidden publications, and they were how we got messages to the masses. This is how we got support to the masses. We didn't have social media. We didn't have cell phones. We had publications. And to get these sent to your home without the post office knowing. And so you didn't have the same thing that happened in the 20s. And so you had to hide it through the post. And so these kind of things were really important and really dangerous. And so the fact that they were so successful but it was still dangerous. Do I walk up to that magazine to get sent to a small town and and it was, broadcast through word of mouth and through very hushed tones. And these gatherings were very hushed. But this is how we survived many years.
And I mean, now that we have the internet and we're going to be doing an episode way more in depth about these kinds of things later on, probably towards the beginning of the year. But there was so many different ways that the LGBT community had to, there was a secret form of communication called hanky code, where everybody had different color handkerchiefs based off of interests and things. And there were so many different ways of communicating non-verbally to kind of tell each other that they were a safe person to speak to and stuff like that, that it's a lot of people from today's day in society would have probably been arrested or killed.
Yeah.
We've gotten very relaxed with the keyboard warriors, and back in the day, you didn't have the kind of anonymity that you do today from sitting behind your computer.
Right. And, and even that, I mean, there's a certain level of traceability. And so you have to be, certain level of careful. And so, it's, these things, they were, you know, they were, they were rebels putting out
I
the
mean, they had to be. If they didn't do those back then, we probably wouldn't be making this show today. I probably
absolutely
wouldn't be married.
right. Same. It's like, this was rebel actions that gave us the liberties that we have today, is because, the men and women of our past was, making these publications. And this is queer visibility, this community. And this is why we need community today, this community and connections. And this is why we're making this podcast, is so we can have this connection with each other, so we can, speak of our ancestors and the people that came before us. And we can broadcast out there that we have people that are doing things like that now. And there's still hope, and there's still people that are constantly fighting.
But I mean, going away from the news side of everything, it's equally as important, but in a different kind of aspect. If you go back, so like, yes, it's very important that we all talk about the things that we need to do, rally around, get everything together, and try to make everything a more accepting world. But media, I want to say books in general, but fiction and nonfiction alike have purposes in our work and everything that we want to do. Even the fictional standpoints, they give aspects of to people that don't see themselves. The small kid that's growing up in a small town full of nothing but farmers that are all heterosexual, and they're like the one gay person who sees that book that's in there, makes them not feel like, even if it's a fictional story, makes them feel like they're not alone. And that
Yeah.
does a lot, because then it makes them not want to give up. And it, like, so everything kind of, yeah. And a lot of good books nowadays come out, and for the queer communities, we have new gay books. Like, my local library has them literally displayed, and they have this like whole little pillar that just has different LGBT related books on it. And
That's so nice. It's just displayed. I mean,
that's
the
something I
fact
would
that
never
it
have in my
never in my hometown, never the fact that it has, queer authors or queer characters, queer voices right there, to be enjoyed, and to where you can see yourself. Could you imagine yourself being a queer kid and being able to check that book out where it doesn't say queer on the front, to where you could take it home and you could hide it in your book bag, and it doesn't show after you take it off that shelf that it's just openly queer, and you can hide it anywhere else, and you can see yourself in it and read yourself about it. And that's why we want to talk about the influencers and the books. And I want to bring up that, I'm married to an author, and he's working on his seventh book right now, in a series of the E85 series. And it's about queer bisexual, uh, group of guys that are mechanics, car guys. And I'm a car guy. And I grew up in a car family. And, we worked on cars, and, it's all about cars. But to be gay and trans and working on cars together, and then being able to have that romantic side of it. And that's where my spouse, Dylan Culner, the 85 series, you can get it on Amazon. We're going to put a link.
show notes.
Show notes. Yeah. So it talks about, so you have that car guy, that mechanic, and then you have that romantic, bromance, that gay bromance. where, you can go work on a car and then you can go back and have that romance, and then you can, punch each other on the arm and go work on the car and go race your cars again. And it was so cool seeing myself in that, because that's the relationship that I have with him, because, I can, go on the track and we can go race our car, and, and then have that romance. And that's so cool to be able to see that and read that in books.
Which, like you said, we'll have the show notes for that in the description. Well, I'll have the link for that book in the description. And if you're interested, give it a look. I mean, but we're going to take a couple minute break, and we'll be right back to talk about some influencers and different types of social media and the effects that it has on our communities. So we'll be right back.
Getting vaccinated against Mpox is an essential step in protecting yourself and those around you. Mpox can cause painful rashes, fever, and complications, but the vaccine significantly reduces the risk of infection. By getting vaccinated, you not only safeguard your own health, but also help prevent the spread of the virus, especially to those who are most vulnerable, like the elderly and those with weakened immune systems. With the vaccine, you can play a vital role in stopping outbreaks and keeping our community safe. Don't wait, talk to your healthcare provider today and take the necessary step towards staying healthy and protected.
And welcome back. So, like I've said 1,000 times now, welcome back to That Sounds Gay, I'm in. We just got done talking about the print side of things, and as I've said, it's literally just grazing the surface. We're going to go much more in depth in this. Probably the middle of next year is what my guess is. But well, with that being said, we've wanted to just also discuss social media and how everything has evolved from a way for college students to get in touch to it being a full-on activist movement on some places, such as TikTok.
Yeah, right. I mean, we couldn't even, mention like even hardly any, of the, influencers in print, and, like Science says, this is such a, a broad topic. And so we're only like scratching the surface, but like some of the influencers, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky is a new one. We're able to get on social media now and voice ourselves and show ourselves to the world and become influencers. And, who knows, one of these days, Sai's going to be famous because, there with my phone. So Sai's going to be famous and be on podcast all over the world. And so,
Just me, though. I'm going to end up leaving Matt very shortly, and it's just going to be me.
Very shortly. Very, very shortly, he's going to leave me behind. Probably sooner rather than later. He's going to dump me. And we see what's coming. But but we were talking earlier. Before the show, we were talking about some of our some of the TikTok influencers, because TikTok is so big nowadays. Everybody seems to be on TikTok. If you're not on TikTok, you have a way of receiving TikToks from that annoying friend that sends you 20 TikToks like you don't watch your own TikToks. I'm that friend. Yeah. Okay. So we're both that friend. Okay. So, everybody has that friend. It's us. Okay. So you know who the friend is. If you're our friend, we're the one that's sending you the 20 TikToks. But so names escape me, Sai, help me. Dylan's last name.
I'm assuming you're talking about Dylan Mulvaney.
Yes, Mulvaney. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So she has become. So she just very simply just became famous being herself, and just how beautiful that
That's
is.
pretty much what social media is nowadays. If you go look at what a lot of the influencers that have made careers off of it, what they do, Like one of my favorites, Straw Hat Goofy, he literally just talks about movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just being yourself. I mean, like Dylan just woke up and said, "This is day 1. All right, this is day 15." And she's just a beautiful soul. And one thing that, I mean, she got advice from Laverne Cox, and I don't know if anybody knows this. This might be hidden, but I'm going to broadcast it to the world. I'm in love with Laverne Cox. And there's a reason I don't live close to her, because I'm really, really in love with her. And I was really sad when she found the love of her life. And it wasn't me, even though I've never tried. And I'm married. Anyway, but Laverne Cox met Dylan and said, keep some of it private. And I took that advice to heart, being on social media as much as I am. And I just give that advice to anybody trying to be on social media, is keep some of your life private. Some of your life should be private, and just take that advice as we all are trying to be social media influencers. But social media also has been a way to be activist. And that's one of the way that I try to be an activist. But there's two kinds of ways I think to be an activist on social media. There's the way that I do, and I try to be a voice of the queer community, and I try to talk to the queer community. And then there's the way of activism where you're trying to talk for a community, and that's towards the masses. And I would have to say that right now, I'm not talking towards the masses. I'm talking towards the community. And I'm not talking out towards the masses. And I have, my business account and my personal account. But my personal account, even though it's public, my friends list, I keep, shared towards just the community. And so I share things on there for the community and for the community only. But there are some people like that I can't think of it. I'm horrible with names, but they try to share out with activism, and they want their voice to be to both sides. There's more than two sides, all sides. And so everybody sees what they have to say. I'd say that I'm not that person. Anybody can see what I have to say, but I'm only going to acknowledge the community and what to say.
Which, I mean, hey, you can even bounce back and forth between those different things.
Right.
But, I mean, social media has such an important presence where today's day in society is. The world has gotten so interconnected. While it has some negative side effects, mostly where people have said that before the day of the internet, people were a lot happier. And I think that's because of the fact that we always had the option of watching the news. Now it's just always right there. You can't get away from it. You're always finding out exactly every single thing that's happening every few seconds. And you're constantly being fed every bad thing because the media focuses so heavily on the bad that it kind of consumes people. And
Right.
it's important to try to back away from that, but also keeping important if that it's really hard to do both. And it's important to keep yourself in mind as well when working on these things.
Right, definitely. And I think that's why, I make sure that, anybody can see my stuff, and I can only see certain people's things. And that's why, I definitely, protect myself. Now, I will say that someday I plan on being a voice that anybody can see anything. Well, I mean, I am something that anybody can see anything. I do plan on speaking out to everybody as an activist, but right now I just try to just speak to the community because that's my target audience. But speaking of target audience, let's talk about Target and their influence, how it changed this last year. Can we, talk about how them, and I don't want to pick on Target. They're not the only ones.
They were just the most showcased ones.
They were the most showcased. So this last year, we have talked in the past about how publicized the the queer sponsorship gets. and how it was like, on June 1st, all of a sudden, all the corporations become pride, and then they dump us on July 1st. But then all of a sudden in 2024, all of a sudden we got dumped by a lot of those corporate sponsors, and it wasn't just Target. And Target didn't dump us. They just put us in the back corner.
But then they received such a loud backlash that, I mean, I don't believe that they should have put everything in the back corner, but an unpopular thing, it was a no-win situation. No matter which direction they presented it, it was not going to, yeah.
Right. I mean, you have to pick your battles as a business person. I mean, either way, you're gonna lose money, and you have to make decisions, and you have to make your stand. Like Toyota, they made their stand and decided that they was not going to do anything towards give any queer money at all anymore. They made a stance, and other places made their stance as well, and made hard lines. Target didn't make a hard line; they made a soft line, but other places made hard lines. And, so we have to understand where those lines have been drawn, and we have to respect those. And one thing that I would like to say is money speaks. And so do with it as you want. I mean, one year we didn't want the corporate sponsorship because it was all corporate. And then the next year we're mad because the corporate sponsorship took it away. So decide where you want your voice, but you need to decide what you want your voice to be said, and then put your money where it's at. But keep your values same, and don't follow the social media rush of what the opinion is. Make your opinions of where they are, and yes, opinions change, but don't just rush with what social media says. Influencers influence. Don't be easily influenced.
And that is another issue that we have with everything currently is everybody hears something that somebody says online, and if they say it with enough confidence, then that's just fact. No, a lot of people say things very wrong with their full chest, and you definitely should double check what everybody says, because sometimes people are just wrong.
Right, and that's the problem that we have with some of the social media influencers and TikTok being so readily available, is that it's so easy to get a following and not be supported. And so, are you an expert, or are you just an influencer, and where is your credentials? But you also, I mean, when you talk about credentials, and let me be very clear about this, about the fact that I have years of studied education that don't have degrees behind it, and I feel that I have the same level of intelligence as somebody that has college degrees that I don't. But I've also done a lot of studying that don't have degrees behind it, but that doesn't mean that my credentials, I have lived experience that, are different, but I don't want, but at the same time, make sure that you know what the person is talking about, and talk to them and ask them what their lived experience is, and do your research. And research is important. And I think that's the biggest deal, is don't listen to a 10-minute video and go, that's it, and form your opinion on it. Take your time before you make your opinion.
Listen to a 30-minute video and then assume that we've made your point.
Right. Make sure it's not a 3-minute. Make sure it's a 30-minute. That's my advice. But as we, go on, there are so many, influencers nowadays, and there's so many queer voices out there. And it's so great to see that we have voices out there, especially now, when it used to be, when we talked about at the beginning of this episode, that it was so quiet. And now we have people out there just screaming and love it, and they can be heard, and there's ways for them to be heard. I think that's great. I mean, there's ways for me to be heard. I love that.
Which I mean, it's very important that Matt gets to be heard, but with all that being said, that's probably a good ending point for our episode today.
Right.
So I hope everybody has enjoyed listening to us ramble on about the importances of media and the importances of being able to express yourself and your opinions. But don't forget to come back next week for our third and final episode of our introduction to gay media. As usual, show notes will be in the description, along with information about our social medias and also our Discord channel for our podcast and our email account in case you wouldn't contact us. So with all that being said, we'll see you guys next week.